Well, the St. Louis Blues have beaten the Edmonton Oilers, and the losing streak is over. It ends at 7 games. Thank goodness the Blues got back in the win column. Robert Thomas has returned from injury, and he looked pretty good last night. Dalibor Dvorsky scored his first NHL goal. He's looking good. The on-ice product as a whole for the Blues has started to look better over the past 2 or 3 games. So are the Blues starting to turn a corner, maybe get their season back on track? Can they climb back into playoff contention? This is a big question that needs to be answered. Which players have impressed the most recently, and what is coming next for this team? Also, in other news, the Blues have acquired defenseman Calle Rosen from the Washington Capitals. What does that mean for the Blues, and could there be any other moves coming? We're going to talk about all that and more today on Note News. Welcome into another episode of Note News. It's John and Alec back with you as always. We're a St. Louis Blues podcast going live twice a week, talking all things Blues. And lately we've been talking a lot about the losing streak and what's been going wrong. But I am so excited to say that we're back in the win column. That win counter has ticked up to 4. It's a little bit of a low bar to make us feel good here right now, but that's sort of been the story of the season. But if you are new to Note News or haven't already, we'd appreciate if you would subscribe on YouTube, follow on Spotify and Apple or wherever you're listening. Give us ratings and reviews. That always helps. And then follow us on socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at Note News Pod, where you can interact with us. And we post a lot of other great stuff over there. But Alec, let's get right into it, my man. We are back. I say we. The Blues are back in the win column. We as Blues fans have something to celebrate finally. And it came against a really good Edmonton Oilers team, and they looked really good against one of the best teams in the league. So that was a really exciting win. It just kind of felt like, for everything going wrong for the Blues for like 3 weeks now, it felt really good to watch a game where not everything, but a lot of things went right. You know, you had Robert Thomas looking good. You had Dvorsky scoring his first goal. Pius Suter, the prize free agent signing, scoring the game winner with less than 2 minutes to play. Really containing some of the best offensive players in the league, in McDavid and Draisaitl. So reactions to the game last night, we can really dive into it throughout this episode. But how you feeling after this win? We finally got one. Goodness, was it a long wait.
Yeah. Did you see the statistic about the McDavid, Nugent Hopkins, Draisaitl line?
I did. That was the one I said that we should point to in the episode. But yeah, why don't you
If you got it pulled up, go ahead.
let me get it pulled up here? So this is from Jason Greger that I'm reading on Twitter. It says McDavid, Draisaitl, and Nugent Hopkins have played 631 regular season games and 96 playoff games, with all three in the lineup. Last night in St. Louis was the first time they combined for 0 shots on goal. Yeah, I mean, that's incredible. These are two of the arguably like top 5 players in the league, in McDavid and Draisaitl. Neither of them had a shot on goal. Like, you didn't contain McDavid entirely, right? He had 2 assists, but still, like, that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. An awesome performance all around. Happy to see, finally get back in the win column, and really just crazy to that it took this long to get anything going. But I don't know. I can't quit this team. The more the more and more I watch, the more I'm convinced that there's a really good hockey team still in there. Uh, and I love the way that they played last night. I love the way that they've been playing for a while now, or for a couple games now. And yeah, I think that last night was sort of a culmination of a long time coming. They were doing a lot of things right and finally got it all to pay off. And like I said, I can't quit what this team is doing. They're leading so well into really good opponents, and doing what needs to be done, offensively and defensively. Um, so I'm super excited to continue to watch how they can grow and recover from this poor start to the season. But I think that the way that they played last night is indicative of how they've been playing for a little while now. And yeah, I can't quit this Blues team. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely too early to do that, and I'm right in the same boat. I mean, as bad as it has looked at times this season, and it's looked pretty bad. The flashes are there, and I think the biggest thing that was lacking in spite of those flashes was consistency. For a while, I mean, they went almost 3 weeks without a win, and that's kind of incredible. But it does kind of feel like there's finally starting to be some consistency, and I think it started against Vancouver. You know, you lose 4-3, you give up a hat trick to Kiefer Sherwood, I believe it was.
Mhm.
And there was plenty about that game to sort of be frustrated about, but it did, to me anyway, start to feel a little bit better. I think the team looked better, right? They got the scoring started. Uh, it kind of went back and forth, and at the end of that game, I mean, it was 4-3, but at the end of it, it looked pretty close, right? I mean, it went all the way to the shootout. So um, Shen doesn't sort of overskate that puck or let it fall off his stick, and things, we would have had a happier episode potentially much earlier than this, but it kind of felt like they finally played a good game. The results didn't go their way, which was frustrating. But it in my head was like, okay, they keep playing like this, they're going to start winning some hockey games. Is sort of the way I was thinking about it. What do they do next? They go and play Columbus. They lose 2-3 in that one. But again, it felt like they were in it. That was a really exciting third period. I thought that they had more fight than we've seen out of them. One of the biggest concerns is that when things don't go their way, for me, one of the biggest concerns is that when things haven't gone their way, it feels like they just get so deflated and they don't know what to do. And you look over at the bench and it's just like stone faced, and that they're, I'm not saying they're giving up. It just feels like mentally they've really struggled with that. But this felt like one of the first consistent performances over these past couple games where they didn't let being down uh, prevent them from staying in the fight, is what it felt like. And so they still ended up losing that game again, frustrating. But I think that point of process that Jim Montgomery and some of the player leaders have talked about and sort of hammered into our brains over and over uh, looked like it was starting to pay off. It looked like the process was good. And then it all culminates in this game last night, a great win over the Oilers. And I think we were all a little bit frightened after being down 2-0 early in the second. It wasn't like they came out flat. I don't think. I think they kind of kept up pace with the Oilers for most of the first. They just gave up a late one and then an early one in the second. And then at that point, it was flashes of what we had seen. Right, it was pretty concerning. But how about that Dalibor Dvorsky goal, man? I mean, let's tell me what you thought of that goal. And like it seemed pretty clear to me, and they sort of talked about it post game, like that injected some life into this team. So what was your thought on that? Absolute like laser from Devo.
Yeah, we asked if Dvorsky could bring a spark to the lineup, and
Yeah.
without fail, he immediately brought that and more. Like just the energizer that was Dvorsky's shot. The way it hyped up the bench was something that I feel like I haven't seen in a long time watching Blues hockey. I mean, maybe a couple moments in that playoff run, but um, just awesome. And that was just the bread and butter Dalibor Dvorsky goal. But get ready to see a lot more of those one timers on the far side
Yep.
because oh man, he has got such a wicked shot. Um, and you think about the ways in which that I hate to harp on this too much, but the ways in which that they can replace or be okay with the loss of a guy like Zach Bolduc. Well,
Hmm.
Dvorsky has that shot that Bolduc had and has the very similar skill set with maybe a little bit better precision too. So Um, yeah, Dvorsky is one of the most hyped prospects of the Blues in recent, however far back you want to go,
Hmm.
um, and for good reason too. You see it all on display, but I mean that goal, man, was just so epic. It was exactly what the team needed, and it was good to see someone like actually be able to rip home one timers on the power play. That feels like something that the Blues have been searching for ever, and finally, ever since like David Perron left, and finally they have their guy in Dalibor Dvorsky who can replace that side of things too. So I mean, we're going to get into it now, but Dvorsky has shown that he brings a lot to the table, a lot of things that the Blues were severely lacking, and now like yeah, as Matt in the chat said too, Dvorsky was incredible on the faceoffs
Yeah,
winning percentage too.
yeah.
That is really a big part of this blue style of hockey is controlling the puck and controlling pace of play. Um, like we're gonna get into the discussion here, but how do you send a guy like that down? I just don't know.
It's the big question. Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, in terms of face-off percentage from players that have consistently taken face-offs, actually, surprisingly, Nathan Walker has the edge. He has a 56% face-off percentage, but Devo on 18 face-offs has a 54 and a half. I mean, that's no small thing. Like he is winning face-offs, and what's even more impressive is that he's already earned some of that trust from the coaching, right? Like I think it was the Columbus game where late in the game, when they needed a goal, it was him that they put on the face-off dot to win a face-off. I'm pretty sure it was the Columbus game. It just felt it just feels like this. Uh, it feels like he is providing exactly what the Blues need right now, which is a little bit of excitement, a little bit of a spark, some of that one timer power, like you were saying, and then just the ability to win faceoffs has been it's been great. And like you said, we've sort of been really excited about this prospect for several years now. Former 10th overall pick, one of the highest Blues draft picks in a long time, and like you said, the excitement has built up over the years, and it felt like I don't know if this is true among Blues fans necessarily, but in like the prospect community or whatever, it has felt like the excitement around Devo had been starting to get a little bit stale maybe, and part of that um, is just because you have with each draft more and more good prospects entering the pool. Um, but he comes up for his cup of coffee last year, and there were flashes for sure. But it. I remember us talking about that at the time and saying it was pretty clear that he wasn't quite ready for NHL play, and I don't think we can say that of him right now because I think he has been one of the more consistent players out there. I think he looks great. I mean, do you think he looks ready for an NHL season right now?
Absolutely. I think Dvorsky looks all the way ready for NHL play. He looks acclimated, and that cup of coffee really paid off. That he was able to refine and hone his skills in the AHL once he got the taste of NHL play.
Hmm.
And um, you still like that isn't to say he's a fully developed product. I think there's still a long ways to go, especially in terms of his skating. His skating is maybe a little overstated how bad it is. I don't think it really holds him back, but it could be it's not a strength and it could be. But I think there are still some things you'd like to see about like playing physical or back checking a little bit that could be cleaned up, but for the most part I think Dvorsky has still been um, really terrific in his looks, and yeah, I think he looks ready. I think he has taken the time that he needs to develop, and uh, from what I'm seeing in my estimation, Dalibor Dvorsky is a player who's ready for the NHL, and I want to see more.
Yeah, I do too, and I think so. a couple of unfortunate injuries to Robert Thomas and Jake Neighbors in particular, who's going to be out for another several weeks. That was sort of the impetus for calling up Dvorsky, right? And he uh, played well enough to put himself in a position to where he was one of the first names up, right? Which is great. But that's sort of why he was called up, right? Was to fill that hole. Now you've got Robert Thomas back. Jake Neighbors is going to be another few weeks, right? But when he comes back, what do you do? I mean, like, so you've got this is another small piece of news, but Milan Lucic signed to another PTO, and he's going to be playing in Springfield to start. So you've got him, right? Eventually, you're going to have Jake Neighbors coming back, and you know, obviously he's got a spot. So what do you do? I mean, if Dvorsky, so it's one thing if Dvorsky maybe starts to struggle again, which by all indications is not going to be the case so far. But if he does, I think it's pretty clear what you do, right? You give Neighbors the spot back and just kind of let Devo continue to work on things maybe down in the AHL. But if he continues to look like this, what do you do, Alec? If you're Doug Armstrong at that point, what's the
Yeah,
what's the move?
I think there's a difference between what I do and what the Blues do. What I think the Blues would do is they'll play it safe. They'll be careful with Dvorsky and not risk messing up his development and send him down to the AHL, which I think is equal parts prudent and a little bit loaded. Because it makes sense to not want to mess up his development, not overwhelm him too early. But at the same time, he is showing a level of play right now that's very comfortable at the NHL level. And one bad stretch of play doesn't mean you're going to ruin his development. It's actually probably better for him to have that bad stretch of play to learn at the NHL level. So what I do and what the Blues do, I think, are two different things. I think the Blues do send him down probably just because, as Rob points out in the chat, they are very careful with their young talent. Rob says the Blues may have underestimated some of their young talent. I would say maybe not underestimated. I just think they're being careful. Um,
Hmm.
and I think that they would probably do the same with Dvorsky. But I think that what I would do is I would keep Dvorsky in that 3C spot, keep him in the faceoff dot, and maybe Dvorsky can be your electrifying identity line kind of guy. If Matthew Joseph, who's been playing pretty well to start the season, continues to play on the third line where we expected him to play, sort of as everyone slots into their quote unquote regular roles. Um, if you can get that going and then throw whoever you want on that third line, maybe it's some nights it's Snuggerud, maybe it's Bugstad, maybe it's Kairu, whoever you want to play on that line. That can be a way to open up the playing and start pretty strong in the neutral zone. So if it were me, I would keep Dvorsky up for sure. I actually just wrote a piece today on Bleeding Blue, so go check that out about why I think Dvorsky has earned his spot and should remain on the roster. But I um I just think I've seen this story happen before, and I feel like I know that the demotion is coming. But while we have him, let's enjoy the Dvorsky show because I think it's only going to be getting better from here.
Yeah, I think there has been a tendency for them to play things safe with prospects. But that being said, I think they've also over the years have been willing to let young guys earn their chance and earn their spot. So I think there's some of both dynamics in play. I'd be really surprised if he continues to look this good or anywhere close to this good. I'd be really surprised if they left that production on the table instead of putting it on the ice. Whereas you have a guy like, I mean, to me, Dvorsky stays. I think in this scenario, you just given the position your team is in, and his capabilities on the power play and your recent struggles on the power play going back multiple seasons, I think he could do a lot of good for this team. They've got to dig themselves out of a hole, and if he can help them do it, you got to take all you can get if you're the Blues. And so I think he stays. And to me, the odd man out is unfortunately it's probably Alexander Texier, and maybe you can get him down to Springfield if he clears waivers. But maybe not, and maybe he gets claimed. So that's some calculus that they're going to have to do themselves. What they are willing to give up, either Dvorsky's production or give up a player to keep room for him. So to me, I think the answer is the choice is pretty easy, and the answer is to take that improved production from Devo. Because if he's ready, he's ready. And at this point, I'm not sure how much good the AHL is going to do for him. So it sounds like we agree on that point in that he should stay up. Who knows what Doug Armstrong and the Blues are thinking, but I think that would be the right call. So if he does stay up, who's the odd man out to you, Alec? Is it Tex, or do you see maybe something else playing out?
I mean, Tex is already kind of the odd man out, and he's already not really seeing ice time. Yeah, that's a good question to ask about who is remaining and who you can put on the outs, because the guy playing worst right now is probably Nick Bugstad, maybe, but I don't think
know.
his contract allows you to do that. It's probably Torpchenko,
Yeah.
who that has already seen some time as a healthy scratch in the first couple games of the season. So that's probably the guy that they go back to. But
Yeah.
I mean, obviously okay, great analysis here. It's one of the bottom sixers that's going to be on the way out. But for my money, it's probably Torpchenko, and
Okay.
that's kind of unfortunate. I kind of like what Torpo's been bringing to the lineup, but I mean, to have a guy like Dvorsky in, it's just sacrifices got to be made, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess so. And maybe they can figure out a way to put a trade together or something and shore up some depth elsewhere. Or I don't know, get a pick back or something like that. But remains to be seen. And there's definitely some time, right? I mean, whenever Jake Neighbors hit the IR, I think the prognosis was 5 weeks, and so and at that point it was just reevaluate. So they've got some time to figure that out for sure. But yeah, here's hoping Devo can keep it up. But going back to that goal, just an incredible first goal, just like a absolute missile one timer on the power play. What a time and manner in which to score your first goal. If you watch the replay, it's so funny. Just keeping your eye on Dvorsky, he just like floats back into that face-off circle, and he's in empty territory, and you can see he's like watching. He's ready. He was just salivating over that chance. And just anything else on Dvorsky, because on this point, I do think we can pivot to Robert Thomas as well.
Just that was probably the most memorable first Blues goal since I don't know. I don't want to go as far back as Tarasenko, but like it's
Maybe
up
so.
there.
It's up there for sure. It's up there. But as much as he was like ready for that shot, I could see the cogs turning in Robert Thomas's head. He was down in the corner there. He sees Devo wide open, and you can see him thinking, and he's like, "Do I pass it through the box here?" And decides to go top to Justin Falk, and I think it was pretty clear what to do if you're Justin Falk in that situation. But goodness gracious, was that fun! And not too long after that, the Blues get their second goal right from Robert Thomas. So Thomas returns from injury and slots right back into that top line between, I think it was Buchnevich and Snuggerud up there. And so he was definitely sorely missed. And, one of our concerns before he went down with an injury was his poor production. It wasn't really coming for Robert Thomas. It was a little bit concerning. How you feeling now after last night? Because he has an assist and a goal. Scored a little bit of a lucky bouncer, but hey, a goal's a goal. He was there to put it on net. So I mean, what more can you ask for? So gets first star of the game in his first game back, and I think looked great on both sides of the puck. Right, he was given those top line responsibilities of locking down McDavid at times. I think he did a fantastic job in that regard. So how are you feeling about Robert Thomas now? Again, it's his first game back, and so um, maybe we can draw some more conclusions later on. But again, thoughts on Robert Thomas after this game?
Yeah, I mean that goal was nice, but if I'm being real, I feel like Broberg was really robbed of that goal. That was
Oh
his
yeah,
all the way, and
he
just
yeah
I
yeah
mean, what a shot. But
shot it
um
so hard he fell over. Like
yeah, yeah.
just the whole
Um
setup too. I mean, like just to talk about that goal specifically, like Matt in the chat is saying, like amazing feed from Snuggerud, like to peel out and get it across the ice there. Great play.
I've been saying he's a playmaker. He's not just a shooter. He's
It's
he's
true.
like a dynamic, do-it-all offensive player.
It's
But
true.
that's why I picked him to win the Calder. Anyways, so Robert Thomas. Oh, right. To me, Thomas looked all the way back last night. It looked like he was playing with some rust before or something.
Yeah.
Playing with some kind of like just slow start to his game, but now he looks all the way back in every phase too. Like in the face-off dot, it on defense especially had a great night defensively, and then on offense he was doing Robert Thomas things. Could have had a multi-point night, came up short with just the 1 point, but you got to start somewhere, I guess, and obviously the goal. Or no, he had 2 points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Assist
my
on
apologies.
Devos. Yeah.
My
Got the
apologies.
assist and then went and picked up the puck for him. Yep.
It's so casual for him. I just can't seem to remember when it's a 1 point night versus a multi-point night. Um, but yeah, he looked all the way back, and that's what I keep coming back to is just how confident and comfortable he skates with the puck on his stick now. That he looks so much more in control of the offense. And
hmm
when Robert Thomas is going, like this Blues offense is going, and they were
He's the
already
engine.
playing decently well without Thomas in the lineup and with Thomas slumping. And now that Thomas is back, like I just can't quit this team, man. I really think a surprise run, not like a 12-game win streak run, but like a 7-3 in a 10-game span or
Yeah.
something is seriously doable for this team to get back into the playoff hunt. And I'm all the way back in on the Blues, but a big reason for that is the way Thomas looked last night. As I said, he looked confident, he looked comfortable, he looked capable with the puck on his stick. He looked like everything that we know him to be, and he looked like a player who's maybe gonna fall short eventually of that vaunted 100-point mark that we put up on him. But he looked like he's trying everything that he could do to have a good night of hockey. And when you have a good process like that, results often tend to fall your way. So I'm really high on Thomas coming back, and it was like something this team needed desperately, and they got it with Dvorsky and with with Thomas and with Thomas Jr. in Dvorsky.
They definitely did. I think it would be one thing if he came back and looked good, scored a goal or something, and was starting to make progress. I think we could come on here and be like, yeah, maybe he's turning a corner. It was such a good game from Bobby T. I think he was probably the best player on the ice out there. I mean, maybe you could say Benner had a great performance as well, but Robert Thomas just looked so good on both sides of the puck again. Defensively, helped shut down that McDavid line, and it just felt like the Oilers. They had a couple stretches where they were threatening, and it was frightening for sure. Um, but it kind of felt like Thomas was a big part of keeping them from getting too much momentum. So I thought he did great in that regard. Obviously, did a great job offensively, scoring the goal and getting an assist. But yeah, I mean, the Blues with and without Robert Thomas, it's such a stark difference. I mean, he is the engine for their offense. he's the linchpin for this team. And when he's out, like people got to play out of position, and then the lines have to shuffle and things like that. He just provides stability and consistency. And when he's at his best, I mean, I think the Blues are obviously capable of some pretty great things, and we saw evidence of that last night. So hoping he can continue that. And he's not the I don't think he's like a super streaky kind of player. And so the fact that he looks good, I think uh, my guess is that he'll continue to look good for a little bit, and uh, you know, be a big part of getting the Blues out of this hole that they put themselves in. So so glad he's back. So glad he's back. It does wonders for this team.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think the way that he's playing, like you said, he's the engine of this offense that, like you just said, it's gonna show up in the wins column more than just on individual point performances too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and then while we're on this topic, I do want to get my word in about Philip Broberg, because I think he's done a great job on the top pair. There's been some shuffling of the defensive pairs in recent games, but it feels like, or throughout the course of the season, but in recent games, it feels like there has been kind of a set rotation. You've got Broberg and Parayko manning the top pair, Fowler Falk on the second, and then Tucker and Kessel, or Tucker and Mayu on the third. I have been really pleased with what we've seen out of Broberg on the top pair. Last season when he got bumped up, he looked okay, but not necessarily like top pair ready. I think it's been a bit of a different story this stretch of games. I think he looks good to handle those minutes, and there were just more than one occasion. Like there were several plays last night where a player as dynamic as McDavid, as tough as he is to contain, as fast as he is, he just like came in flying, trying to do the McDavid thing. And I was so impressed with what Philip Broberg was able to do against him. It just felt like he smothered him and shut him down on multiple occasions. And it's not just him. I know, like the Broberg Parayko pairing looks great, but well, I mean, he's my favorite player. So what are you gonna do? So yeah, I just wanted to put that out there. Love Broberg, and I really love that top pair. I think Jim Montgomery has worked wonders for Colton Parayko, and I think Philip Broberg really likes the Montgomery system in a similar way. So happy to see them meshing there on the top pair.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Broberg has been one of the bright spots on this team for a while now, despite everything else going wrong. And he just continues to look like, I mean, is it wrong to say that he looks like the best defenseman on the Blues right now? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I think that he's outplaying Parayko. I think
Okay.
I don't think there's much of a competition outside of those two. So I mean, Tucker has been playing some nice hockey. I gotta say,
Oh
I
yeah.
gotta shout
Oh
out
yeah.
my guy Tyler Tucker. But Broberg has been like one of the 5 best skaters for the Blues this season, and it's just awesome to see what he's capable of when he fully gets like unleashed. And it
Mhm.
feels like they're really unleashing him and uh, showing off like what he is capable of. So I'm super happy to have him on our team. I mean, what a find he's been.
Mhm.
And just the way that he plays hockey is like it's like I feel like I'm learning the game watching him play. So Broberg, and I know I'm
Yeah.
preaching to the choir with you here, John, but um, Broberg is truly exceptional and uh, has been a real bright spot on this Blues roster so far.
Agreed. Another big bright spot for me has been Pius Suter. So like what are your thoughts on this guy? I mean, like I said earlier on, he's the prize acquisition of the offseason. They kind of get their guy um, as a middle six center, and he was someone that I was really hoping that they would go after at the beginning of the summer. He's one of the targets I picked out, so I was really excited when they made that signing. But what do you think of the fit so far? I like as excited as I was. They're there's only so much prediction you can do as far as how he'll fit in to the system and to the lineup. So, how have you liked Suter so far? Scores the game winner last night.
Yeah, he's been one of the biggest surprises for me this season. I mean, even just clocking like last year, he had a career year. The big question was, is that who Pia Suter is, or is that just a career year for him?
Yeah,
And it turns out that's more like who he is. Is he could be a 20, maybe even, excuse me, 25 goal scorer, and get upwards of 50. Excuse me, gosh, pushing maybe 60 points. Um, but yeah, with Suter, the way he plays is just so tenacious. It's
yeah,
like he never gives up on a puck or a puck battle.
yeah,
And it's you totally see why the Blues targeted him as a guy that could be worth looking into. This is the kind of thing that energizes and motivates a lineup is a guy like Pia Suter. So
yeah,
I'm fascinated by his fit on the team. I think that he could play up and down the lineup. Like if you give me a line of Thomas, Snuggerud, and Suter, I think that's a really fun combination. I could just spit out combinations all
yeah,
day about what's fun on this team, but um, I I really really like the way he fits on this team because he plays tenacious blues hockey. He plays really intense on the puck, and it isn't the most physical game, but he does
hmm
enough physically. And his back checking and his defensive metrics have always been so good. And that's the part about blues hockey that's more salacious that I think he does so well, is that effort and that compete and that not giving up on puck battles. It doesn't have to be a Nathan Walker type that's just gonna, or a Braden Shen type that's just gonna slam you into the boards every time. You can be a little bit more crafty and still play blues hockey. And I think Pia Suter has been an exemplary figure of that feature. So
yeah.
I really love the way he slots into this team, and I love the way he energizes his line mates too.
Yeah, I mean it's the Swiss Army knife effect, right? I mean, and he's Swiss, so it works. But he's kind of like a jack of all trades type of player. Like he doesn't really have one standout skill necessarily. He's just like really solid at so many different things, and that's why you can plug him into so many situations. He took on top line minutes in Vancouver. Well, guess what? He did that for multiple games while Robert Thomas was out here in St. Louis, and so. Um, obviously they continued to lose, but he impressed me in that regard. You can put him on the power play. You can put him on the penalty kill, especially. I can't remember which game it was specifically, but he just like picked someone's pocket, like right behind them, and skated it out of the zone on the PK. And so like there was another play. I think it was a Kairu goal that he set up by just like going into a puck battle against the boards, lifting some guys' sticks and stealing the puck out from under them, and then just like immediately setting up Jordan Kairu for a goal. So like he can do that. He, like you said, he can win the puck battles. He can pick pockets, and while he might not be like super physical, like you said, I think he is physical enough. I think part of that is just a size factor, right? Like he's not necessarily the biggest guy or the strongest guy out there, um, but he knows where he needs to be when, like he knows where he needs to be at the right time, and that's what we saw last night with the game-winning goal, right? Like he's not the, I think it was Jim Montgomery that said it. He's not the Jake Neighbors type of guy that can like push his way to the net front and just kind of like set up camp there. But he can get there. He knows how to get there, and he knows how to get there at the right time. And that's what he did last night. He got there at the right time and was just able to put in the rebound attempt. And so if that's something he can continue doing and continue to be valuable in so many different ways, maybe you keep him for longer than this contract. Maybe you look to extend him. And it's a little bit early for that for sure. But like the fit has been like a glove in my opinion. So
Yeah.
I've been really impressed and pleased with what we've gotten out of Suter.
Yeah.
So what do you think, Alec? Do you think the Blues as a team are turning a corner here? What do you see? I mean, after this point, I do want to talk about the Rosen trade for sure, but they obviously get a big win last night. So what are you seeing out of the Blues team wide, and not just talking about some individual player highlights, but like what are you seeing from a team perspective? Are they turning a corner here, and do you think they can climb their way back into contention, playoff contention, I should say?
Yeah. I think that, I mean, I've kind of already, um, I think I've already kind of spoiled the answer to this, but I'm totally in on this team, and I think that they can absolutely get back into playoff contention. And I think, honestly, I'm kind of expecting it to happen. I think that they will. I'll say that they will get back into playoff contention because the way that they're playing, they've sort of got that structure back, that good defensive style of hockey. They're not giving up as many like fluke chances, because that's really what all those goals against what that were happening was. They were giving up these really like high danger shots, um and giving up like turnovers like right in front of the net. If they can clean up that very simple thing to not turn the puck over right in front of the net, then that would expect to less goals against. And beyond just that, they're actually leading in a lot of advanced analytics too, especially in terms of expected goals against marks. They've been one of the best teams in terms of creating creating chances and like creating scoring chances.
Hmm.
They're sixth per money puck in expected goals percentage.
Yeah.
That's not even top 10. That's almost top five. And then in expected goals against, I'm pulling this up for a second, but expected goals against per 60, they are middle of the pack. So it's come down a little bit, but it was top 10 for a while. They're
Hmm.
14th in the league. Um, but still playing like one of the best offensive and defensive teams per the advanced analytics. Uh, and that's with a like 6 or 7 game losing streak compounded in there. And they still scraped together and got a few OT losses in there, which really do matter. Those OT
Yeah.
losses are huge in terms of the standings difference as the
Hmm.
year progresses. So I think that this team absolutely can. With Robert Thomas playing like he's been, Dvorsky and Snuggerud providing that jolt of youth and energy into the lineup, and the vets seeming to pull their act together and get the ship righted. I not only think they can, I almost expect this team to turn it around and start to go on a bit of a heater, because they've been playing good hockey for, like you said, a few games now, and it's finally resulting in wins, and that's only going to improve as they shake more of the rust off of the offseason. So I'm all in on this Blues team. I can't quit them.
Yeah. I know I'm in the same boat. I think enough has looked good for me for enough games here that I think they are starting to right the ship a little bit. It's a hard thing to do, especially when you are kind of in a bad rut. But they hopefully hopefully it's just a win, and an exciting win is all they needed to sort of get things back on track. And I think this could be the beginning of that. Now they got to go out and do it again against a tough Washington Capitals team who are not as hot as they were to start the season, but are still a good team. Then they've got the Sabres and the Kraken to close out the week. It's these teams have all three of these teams have looked good at various points throughout the year so far. And so you gotta go do it again. And I think there's something still to be proven. It's just one win out of the past 8 games. So they got to go out there and continue to do it, because again, like I said at the beginning of the episode, the biggest issue was consistency. And so I'm looking for some consistency here. Um, Last year, one of the big talking points throughout the year was how they just could not, for the life of them, win 3 games in a row, right? I think it took until the 12-game win streak. I think it was like their first time they won 3 games in a row. I could have that slightly wrong, but it was long enough into the season before that hitting that 3 game win streak mark that it was a little bit concerning, and they kind of needed that 12 game streak to get things back on track for the playoffs. But so to that end, they can't do that again this year. Winning 2 games and losing 1 or 2 or 3. They I think have got to start putting some consecutive wins together now more than ever. Right? They just lost 7 in a row, so they got to start putting it together. Um, so that being said, I'm with you. I think this team is starting to turn a corner. I think they definitely can get back into the playoff picture, but I got to see it. I got to see it. So, and we have like you pointed out, we have seen it for a few games now, but I want to see it translate to wins more consistently. So, I think they can. I think this is a good stretch of schedule that it's challenging enough to sort of see what they're made of, but not a stretch where they should. I say that, but they just did. Not a stretch where they should win a bunch of games or should lose a bunch of games. Excuse me. Um, so I think they can, but again, got to see them go out and do it. So fingers crossed on that one. I think they definitely can. If they play like they have over the past 3 games, they keep that process. I think we could be even happier by our next episode. So, um, yeah,
Yeah, and I think it just can't be said enough how much the play of guys like Dvorsky and
yeah,
have been like implement or improving this team's
yeah,
potential
for
and to
sure.
what they can do. And like that kind of playmaking is how you steal games away. Obviously, Snuggerud too is a guy who could do that. Um, and that's in the way that they can win games is that they can play up to anybody's competition level, as well as they should be able to beat the teams that they should be able to beat with their structure now intact.
Hmm.
So I would be looking for some of those, like you said, um, some of those consistent win streaks to be on the way.
Yeah, yeah. I think it could be coming for sure. Um, all right. Do you want to talk about this Rosen trade now?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's see here. Um, so we found out, I think it was yesterday. It was announced yesterday that the Blues have acquired defenseman Calle Rosen from the Washington Capitals in exchange for defenseman Corey Schwinneman. I can never get his name right. It's got a lot of E's. So Rosen is going to report to Springfield. He will not be joining the team in St. Louis, but it's a familiar face, right? He has um, played in St. Louis for some for various stints. So I think this is in my opinion, this is kind of like a security move, a depth type of move. You've got like maybe enough uncertainty on your third pair with three different young defensemen that maybe you just, if you're Doug Armstrong, you just want someone who's been there before. So thoughts on the trade, and then yeah, as Rob asks in the chat, do you think we see him at all this season up in St. Louis?
Yeah, I think it's a floor raising move. I think
Yeah.
spurned by maybe having to play guys like Matthew Kessel and unfortunately Logan Mayu, who have just been struggling to start the season. I think one of those guys they'll stick with to just try it out and see if how it works. But you can't have two of those guys on your roster just because that makes the math really difficult for Jim Montgomery. So I do think that they will play. I think Rosen will play and probably take over the spot. If I had to guess, as a guy like Matthew Kessel, I think his spot's kind of up for grabs. So um, I think that Rosen, you know, his time in St. Louis was short but storied. Obviously,
Yeah.
I don't think I need to rehash that for longtime Blues fans. If you know, you know. But let's hope that that doesn't repeat itself again. And um, Rosen is a serviceable third pair defenseman. You know, he does enough um, and gives enough of an effort to not stink um, and to provide a consistent and easy level of play that isn't going to impress you, but is kind of forgettable, and that's kind of what you want as a it's kind of what you want for a third pair defenseman. So
Yeah.
should help guys like Tyler Tucker, who has had a great start to the season, as well as hopefully can shelter the minutes of Logan Mayu and help his development a little bit too. So I'm I'm watching Rosen as a guy who can potentially raise the floor of the team and make sure that they don't get eaten alive in their depth minutes as they have been so far.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's a floor raising move, and something where you're just, like I said, looking for some security. I wouldn't be surprised if they made a swap, and I would be surprised if it was Logan Mayu who was sent down to AHL. I think it would probably be Matt Kessel. Um, so yeah, I think I don't know. Those are my thoughts. I think we kind of see some third pair minutes out of him at some point this season. Um, yeah, I mean, depth move. Um, Follow up question though. This was something that we have kind of been dancing around for um, in various episodes recently, given the ice time that your top four defensemen are seeing. It's not. I think it's come back to earth a little bit. But for a while there, it was pretty obviously unsustainable, right? They obviously didn't trust their third pair guys, um, and they were very clearly playing their top four guys for way too much. You know, you can't play them so much over an 82 game season. This feels like maybe a move to lift some of that burden, and we were wondering at the time if something like this was coming. My question now is, do you think there's another move coming? Like, do you think this is a signal that maybe there's more out there that they're looking to do, or yeah, like what are your thoughts on what else the Blues could get up to in the trade market?
I did see a rumor that the Blues and Wild were at least like approaching discussions,
Yeah.
but um, I don't think there's. I personally, I don't think there's another move coming for the time being. I think they're setting up to have a nice trade deadline when the time comes. But I would be pretty surprised if they made another in season move, just because unless it's like as Rob has pointed out in the chat, selling off a piece like Toropchenko or maybe a Joseph contract move or something smaller like that. But I don't think that a large or even like I kind of don't think that another move is coming. And that's just based off of I think the team is still figuring out who they are, and so to shake it up even more at this point feels like it could be potentially harmful. But I could see the other side of that too. So I guess it is also just kind of a I hate to say it, but it's kind of just a feeling that I feel like the Blues aren't going to be super aggressive until the trade deadline comes.
Yeah, I think the rumor that you saw was from Elliot Friedman of Sportsnet, and I think that was something he talked about on 32 Thoughts, the podcast. And having listened to what he said, it kind of sounded like more of an approach of the Blues and the Wild were in a position and have been in a position where they just kind of need to know what's out there. So like you said, it doesn't seem like there's a big move coming or anything like that, but they're doing their due diligence of knowing what's out there, what different potential trade partners are thinking, which way they're leaning, and what might or might not be available, that kind of thing. So just kind of feels like maybe they're testing the waters. Um, I would like if we saw some other move coming, but there's only so much you can do, and there's I mean, especially in the East, there's so much parity. Uh, like only a few days ago, every single team in the East was within 4 points of a wild of the playoffs. So it's like so far there's probably a lot of teams over there that are opting to wait and see, and so it's going to take some time before there are potential trade partners, I think, out there. Um, I think it might be a little bit too much to ask to ask Doug Armstrong to go out there and do like a similar Cam Fowler trade again, because that just was kind of a lucky get and a lucky fit in a lot of ways. But like that's the kind of thing that I was wondering if might be coming. If they're looking to do something like that again, go ahead and find that stabilizing piece while there's still time left in the season to get things together and back on track. I don't think Rosen is that move. Like we've said, more of a floor raising move. But I think it's potentially something that they might have their eye on before the trade deadline. I'm not an insider or anything, but I wouldn't be surprised if, given the deployment and play of the defensemen, if they look to find some more stability. But who am I to say?
Yeah.
Well, coming up next, like we said, back-to-back games, away games. They'll be on the road in Washington and Buffalo tomorrow on the 5th, and then the next day on the 6th. Then they're returning home for a game against the Kraken on Saturday. So that's what's coming up next. What are we thinking, Alec? What do you want to see out of them for this stretch of 3 games? It's kind of been our way of previewing the upcoming games. What do you want to see out of this team? It could be record wise or on ice wise. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking it's go time. It's time to finally get their act together and start winning some games. So I think, as shallow as it is, I am watching the record more than anything else, because um, they have dug themselves a hole, and to get out of it, you got to start climbing. So I'm looking for a positive winning record. I think they've got some, not any game in the NHL is a guaranteed win at all, but I think they've got some games that they can compete in. Um, and just I think it's time to go. Like I've always said, standings don't really matter until November or December, and we're starting to get there. So now is go time, and let's not be 30th in the league anymore. Is what I'm looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, looking at the standings last night, it like worked wonders for my mental health somehow to watch that 3 go to a 4 in the win column. I was like, we are really cooking now. But yeah, I definitely want to see them rack up some more wins now. It's not fair to expect them to go on a 12-game win streak, but I want to see them win these next 2. I want to see this 3-game win streak. That's what I really want to see out of this team. But if they can win 2 of these 3, I think I'll be happy. So, yeah, consistency. That's what I want to see. And they sort of started to show that even in the losses over the past few games. Let's start to show it in some wins. So, yeah, exciting result last night, and exciting quality of hockey that they were playing. Looked like Blues hockey again. Looked clean, looked crisp. They looked ready. So hopefully that continues. I think they're starting to turn a corner here. And hey, maybe we come back on next episode after these 3 games, and they'll be 7-2, and then we're feeling a lot better about things. But knock on wood, don't want to jinx anything. So it worked last year. Hey, so let's keep it going. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us this time. We'll be back to break down what we're seeing out of the Blues and the stories and trends that emerge on our next episode. So we would definitely love to see everyone back. We'll be going live, so you can join us here on YouTube. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's really the best way to help us out. So please do that if you haven't already. Like this video as well, and then follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. Leave us a review. Those go a long way. And then follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Note News Pod. We'd love to engage with everyone over there. Thanks for tuning into this one. We will see you next time. And let's go Blues.
Let's go Blues.